The Peach Bowl, Ole Miss making a massive statement, guys, in this football game. Final score in this one is Ole Miss takes down Penn State 38-25. Lane Kiffin was in his bag, ladies and gentlemen. In his bag. You look at these numbers. And Penn State, guys, and I know they had opt-outs. People are going to use the excuses of opt-outs in every single game. Like, don't do that. I understand there's opt-outs. We all know there's opt-outs, but I love college football. The games matter to me. I'm not going to sit here and watch games and say, well, we're not even going to talk about it because they don't matter. They do. They do matter. We're going to get there, but ask Missouri and ask Ole Miss and ask some of these others winning a bowl game, what significance that has. Hitting 11 wins for the first time in program history. Ask Ole Miss if it's significant or not. So anyways, I know Penn State had some opt-outs defensively. Let's point that out. But Lane Kiffin in his bag, 540 total yards, 394 through the air in this one. 394 to the air, 146 on the ground as well. Give Penn State credit, though. They moved the football. Pete Golding's defense, I thought, did a really good job in the second half, limiting Penn State to just 8 points in that second half. They weren't perfect. They were very bend but don't break. They were very opportunistic. But again, I thought the second half adjustments there were really, really evident. But again, guys, you continue going through the numbers. I mean, Jackson Dart, what a job. You think back, guys, to last offseason when Lane Kiffin brought in Walker Howard, when he brought in Spencer Sanders to push Jackson Dart and create this quarterback competition. We didn't even know if Jackson Dart was going to be the starter. And so what this kid evolved into and the level he took his game to this year, I mean, you can't say enough good things about this dude. 25 of 40, 379 in the ball game, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He protected the football. He was brilliant in the game. Quinshawn Judkins, he goes over 100 yards, 34 carries in this game for Judkins. That's crazy when you think about it. 34 carries. Pre-scoring the tight end was phenomenal, 10 for 136, 2 touchdowns. Trey Harris was unguardable, 7 for 134. You know, like I mentioned, guys, the defense, I thought, you know, very, very bend but don't break. You know, making some big plays, making Drew Allard uncomfortable at times. You know, forced a fumble, forced an interception, I believe. Forced an interception for sure. So, anyways, guys, I thought Ole Miss, it really started offensively. We knew Penn State was going to have a really, really tough time keeping up with Ole Miss, which is why Ole Miss is in my pick or what was my pick in this game. But, like, it was a reminder yesterday watching that Lane Kiffin's just simply one of the best in the business when it comes to offensive play calling, when it comes to scheming. And, like, you see these Saban guys, these Saban disciples, and they get all this extra time to get ready, right? I mean, Lane Kiffin, you could just tell he had some tricks up his sleeve that we had not seen, I think, that we had just not seen this season. And Kiffin proving yet again, for everything people may say about him and question him, and he's this, he's that, he's one of the best in the business when it comes to play calling and devising a scheme and devising an offensive game plan. Guys, my question is this. Were Big Ten defenses, were they overrated this entire time? This one's kind of more funny. I'm just poking and picking at you Big Ten folks that are probably tuning in right now. You know, I will say this, though. Are the numbers inflated? I mean, you look at Iowa, you look at Penn State, you look at even an Ohio State, although their defense was really good against Missouri. You know, when you play the kind, like, they don't see offenses like Ole Miss. They don't face play callers like Lane Kiffin. They just don't. To me, that was really evident, right? Like the speed, the athleticism, just the sheer number of playmakers on the outside. It looked like Penn State was kind of like a deer in headlights. Like they just had not seen that from anyone else that they had played this season. Now, guys, I mentioned it earlier, but the significance, and we talked about this a lot going into this football game. The significance of this game for Ole Miss winning 11 games. And I asked our guy, Zach Barry of the Ole Miss Spirit a couple weeks ago about, is this the golden age of Ole Miss football? And I know some Ole Miss fans would disagree. And I know you can go back to Vaught Hemingway and before any of us were alive. But in my lifetime, certainly, like, man, you're an Ole Miss fan. Just take a moment. Take a moment today on this New Year's Eve. You reflect back on 2023. And what a year, by the way, it's been for Ole Miss athletics. But you reflect back on 2023. Like, really take a moment to savor it. I'm not saying it's going to be here today, gone tomorrow, but you just never know, right? You just never know. If you've been a sports fan long enough, you know that you just never know. I'll never forget, guys, I lived in Charlotte for 4 years. I moved there in 2015, right? August of 2015. The Panthers go 15-1. Go to the Super Bowl. They host the NFC title game. I wake up the day of that game. My buddy's like, man, you better buy a ticket. I know they're expensive, but you never know when they'll be back. I remember thinking to myself, dude, they got Cam Newton. They got Luke Kuechly. They'll be back next year and the following. It's so easy. He's like, okay, you better go. So I ended up buying a ticket and going. Thank goodness I did, because I don't think the Panthers have been back since, right? And I'm not some diehard Panthers fan, but I'm just saying, you never know, okay? So soak it all in. But the significance of getting Ole Miss to this level, winning 11 games, beating a program like a Penn State, right? A nationally relevant program, continuing to push Ole Miss forward as a national brand, and just what that does for your program. The insane amount of hype and momentum, which Ole Miss would have had either way, right? Either way, because of the way this season went, winning 10 games, what they're doing in the transfer portal, what they've done in recruiting, building their roster, what the Grove Collective is doing. The momentum would have been crazy either way. The momentum would have been sky high going into 2024. But when you start doing things you've never done in program history, I mean, just what a job, man. What a job by Lane Kiffin and company to push that thing forward, to elevate that program. And, I think now there's this sense of belief around Ole Miss football from the people that I talk to and interact with, that Ole Miss should be there, that they should be the upper echelon of the SEC. There's nothing holding Ole Miss football back. And guys, way too far ahead. You look at 2024, 12-team college football playoff. Does 2024 set up as the year for Ole Miss, not just to make the playoff, but to maybe make a run at a national championship? I don't want to be the guy that overreacts to a bowl game. I don't want to be the guy that overreacts to one single game, right? Because Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, they all still exist, right? There are still very difficult hurdles, right, that Ole Miss has to overcome. I think that the Peach Bowl was a good first step for Lane Kiffin and company, because, guys, what was the knock on Lane Kiffin going in that game? Same thing it was on James Franklin. Can't win the big one. For whatever reason, just can't win the big one. Maybe now that's alleviated a little bit. Maybe now that's not quite the lead storyline when Ole Miss takes on Bama next year or takes on whoever, right? I mean, maybe that's not the thing we're talking about the most going into those big games, the Rebels. So, I don't want to be overreactionary. I don't want to, crown Ole Miss right now. When you look at this football team, this football program, who they have coming back, more than likely Jackson Dart's going to be back at QB1. I think Quinshon Judkins is back. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. What you're adding in the portal, both offensively and defensively, Ole Miss is going to be a really, really fun pick going into next year. And this year was special. Next year could be magical for Ole Miss football.